Colts fans, the week one curse is broken after a big victory over the Dolphins at Lucas Oil Stadium. So, what stood out in the dominant performance? Who was the most surprising performer? And what do you, the fans, make of this win for Jim Irsay's Ring of Honor celebration? Well, let's talk about it. Welcome to the Horseshoe Huddle Podcast, as always, presented by Indianapolis Colts on SI.com. I'm Drake Wally, deputy editor for the site, co-host of the show. We're joined by Noah Gebert, as always, analyst for the site and fellow co-host. Noah, dude, we have ourselves a heck of a victory. This was one that I think everybody was excited about, was ready for, wanted, an over decade-long curse to end. Not sure if we thought that it was going to happen in the manner that it did, but I will say that, everyone's got to be happy about it. How you doing, man, and what do you make of this game?
Yeah, I'll be honest, I wasn't expecting the beatdown that they came out and they gave the Dolphins there. I mean, I was kind of expecting something a little closer than that. I honestly thought that the Colts weren't going to be able to break that week one curse that we've been talking about for so long, just because past precedent has shown that this team doesn't really come out fast, and they don't come out with these strong starts under Shane Steichen. But that was completely turned around. And what I really just think this is just an overall proof of concept. I mean, it's week one, so we'll try not to get too overexcited about what we saw. But yeah, I mean, just proof of concept that the plan that Shane Steichen was having in his head when he decided to go with Daniel Jones as the starter seems like that's come to fruition and at least shown that it can work in that way. We just need to start seeing it consistently going out throughout the season now.
Yeah, man. What a team win. Every side of the ball was on fire. Rigoberto Sanchez could have had himself a cup of tea, maybe a beer, probably could have just left and gone to St. Elmo's and had himself a steak during that game. He was not even needed. But before we even get started here, I mean, we got some super chats filling up already. So Lindsey Mack, thank you so much, my friend. And it's awesome to see you back in the chat. He didn't put this comment in there, but we're going to go ahead and throw it out there. We know what LFG means, and absolutely, Lindsey. What a feeling that was, from play calling to defense to the standout performances from most players, including Daniel Jones, who proved everyone wrong, including myself. Added a Warren jersey to my Christmas list. Fantastic. Very glad to hear it. And thank you so much again, Lindsey. You, as always, are one of the real ones. You're one of the best. Thank you so much. Truett with a $2 super chat. First round's on me. Hey, you know what? I only drink apple juice. Okay. I don't know what that, I'm just kidding. Truett. Thank you so much, man. Really happy that you got to witness this week one victory as well. Andrew Harmon throws in, let's talk power ranking change in QBs or completion percentage through week one. Hey, man, we'll probably get to everything Daniel Jones. I mean, like Noah said, don't freak out. The Dolphins are a team that I personally think is falling apart. There's so much going on. You saw Tyreek Hill screaming on the sidelines, and Mike McDaniel looked really frustrated. So we'll see what happens with that team. But nonetheless, Daniel Jones did look great. And Paul Wilson said, see, Noah, this win was for Mr. Irsay. Colts fans love to see it. And hey, you know what? I'll tell you right now, if they would have gotten their butts kicked in that game, that would have been egg on the whole franchise's face. So I think that this was very much needed, but perfect scenario to go out there and get a win.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, before we even dive into it here, just tell me about the overall, because obviously there's three sides to the football, right? But there was so much newness on this team. You had a new quarterback. You had, a new tight end. You had two new offensive linemen, not new, but as week one starters, full-time starters, they're new. You had, some new players on in the offensive backfield. A guy like DJ Giddens got like 10 plus carries. Then you flip over to the defense, a completely revamped secondary, new guys on linebacking core, new guy calling the shots. What was your, I guess, overall feel before kickoff even happened? What were you thinking that this team might be able to do?
Yeah, so there's just a lot of unknowns going into week one just because of all the change throughout the organization. I guess maybe you were expecting a little bit of that Gardner Minshew type of offense, more so than the Anthony Richardson and Joe Flacco stuff that we saw the last 2 years, kind of more dink and dunk kind of stuff. And you would kind of see Shane Steichen really get in his bag with the play calling and pull out some creative stops and kind of keep the offense on schedule. At least that's what you were hoping for. I'll be honest, I wasn't 100% sure that we were going to come out and see that week one. in terms of Daniel Jones being able to operate so efficiently and make these plays when he needed to make the plays in the deep game. I mean, he was just really good all around. I don't know that I was expecting that. And then defensively, it was just an amazing performance defensively. And it's not that I wasn't expecting something good on the defensive side of the ball. They've added a lot of talent in the secondary. They've had some talent up front in the linebacker core. We know Lou Anarumo as a good coach, and we were excited about the scheme that he was going to bring. But really just brought it to a level that I think a lot of Colts fans didn't see coming. So I think overall in all three phases, maybe kickoff coverage was a little bit shoddy in the first half of the game, but overall, and then Spencer Schrader. Maybe you had some questions about that. So special teams was, I think, a little bit above expectations. But all three phases, I think, exceeded the expectations of what you would kind of generally expect as a casual Colts fan going into this game. So, excited to really see all three sides of the ball step up.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll get into, really every side of the ball kind of shocked me. I'm not going to lie. Like, I figured that Indianapolis had the talent and the coaching staff and really the scheme on both sides to win. But I was of the notion that, this curse had transcended quarterbacks. It had transcended three coaches. It was something that the Colts could not figure out what to do with. And I don't know, man, maybe, Jim Irsay was up there, riffing on a guitar or something with his shades and his hat on. I don't know what kind of aura was in that building, but there was something different about that game. And then, as Patrick mentions here, I do like that he's bringing this up because the stats won't show it. But as far as performances are concerned, let's talk about A.D. Mitchell, gents. Yes, he only had 2 catches, but on 2 tough targets. The turnaround is here. When you have Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman hogging 13 of Daniel Jones's 22 completions, and then Jonathan Taylor, as Daniel Jones loves to do, is to dump it off. He had another 3 catches. So there's 16 of the 22 catches. A.D. Mitchell's the 4th guy on the depth chart for wide receivers, man. And I think it's there too. I completely agree with you, Patrick. I think that as long as he continues to improve and, he shows that route running, that connection with his quarterback, I hate to say this, maybe he needed someone who was more accurate. I don't know. But, what did you think, Noah? I think that A.D. Mitchell's probably not going to go out there and put up some statistically incredible season. But I do foresee him improving off of last year. And honestly, the talent's there, man. It really is.
Yeah, it's just going to be difficult with him because of the amount of mouths to feed there are on the offensive side of the ball. And obviously going to be getting Jonathan Taylor his fair share of carries. So you're not going to be super voluminous in the passing game in the first place. And then you're just sharing those targets. But that one throw along the sideline, one great throw by Daniel Jones, threw it really early right on that break for A.D. Mitchell, anticipating he would be there, which is something we didn't see last year, is a quarterback throwing to A.D. Mitchell with anticipation and then both being on the same page of where he was supposed to be.
Yes.
He was right there on the sideline. Yeah, that toe tap catch was awesome. The drag, I guess, pretty generic play on that 3rd down where he got it right around his knees. That's a tough catch to bring in. Not really worried about him making those catches. Like he has the hands to be able to do that. You would like to see a more accurate pass from Daniel Jones there to see if AD really had some run after the catch ability to get the first down, maybe even a little bit more. So you can't be disappointed with the performance you got out of AD Mitchell. Really, there's not many people on the offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball that you're really that disappointed in terms of individual performances. And kind of in the same vein, I'm not sure that there's really that many that you're like, wow, this guy was amazing. There's maybe 1 or 2 here and there, but like they didn't necessarily need these standout performances from a lot of these guys just because everybody played so solid. And really it's the coaching on both sides of the ball that shone through, I thought.
Yeah. And, when you're able to get so many people involved, you had Pittman, Warren, Pierce, Taylor, Mitchell, even Mo Alley Cox caught 1. Yep. Josh Downs caught 2. That's 7 different mouths that you fed on 22 completions. Daniel Jones distributes the football. Yep. All right. He's not going to try to overfavor one guy. I don't know, man. I know it's one game, but it really does look like he just needed more, I don't know, competency around him as an offensive roster, but we'll see. Again, it's one game, and I'm not downing what he did, But that Dolphins secondary was atrocious. I mean,
Yeah.
they sucked. Like, not to be mean to any Dolphins fans, but they've got a long, long season ahead against guys like Allen, guys like, I mean, even Justin Fields is probably going to carve up that defense. So, but we'll see. Great performance, though. And yes, I do agree with you, Patrick. A.D. Mitchell is probably going to get overlooked in this game. But we're going to just kick off the most important piece of this, and that is that the curse has ended.
Mm-hmm.
This was one of the most embarrassing curses, losing streaks I've ever seen. You had lost from against everybody from contenders all the way down to the 1-16 Jags. Do you think that this is kind of like? It was a perfect scenario, man. You had a new quarterback nobody really was too excited about. I know Andrew Moore was actually at the game, and he said that the fans weren't really that into it at first, and don't forget, Patrick pointed this out. The Athletic did a hope-o-meter where they do a survey on all 32 teams and how positive and optimistic they are about their team for all the fans. The fans do it. The Colts were last. They were 32nd out of 32 with like a 6% of optimism percentage. So perfect storm, perfect performance. Do you think that this is one of those things where now the Colts can finally say, that's off of our shoulders? We got Jim Irsay's Ring of Honor game. Now you do have to put up 16. You do have 16 other games, but what do you think this meant for the franchise to finally put this to rest?
Yeah, I think it was kind of a pessimistic thing that I said the last episode we did right before the game, where I was like, if they don't do anything else, at least in this streak, so that the next regime that comes in doesn't have to worry about that. But yeah, either way, whether it's this current regime that survives this season and makes some noise in the playoffs, or we get somebody else at general manager and head coach, this isn't something we have to talk about anymore. It just builds and builds every year, and the narrative gets stronger and stronger. And I think that just puts a little bit more mental pressure on some coaches and some players. I'm not sure it's enough to really swing things one way or the other. Obviously, I mean, we got 12 years here, and then finally we're able to pull out that W there in week 1. But yeah, it's not something, like I mentioned, I'm not superstitious about it. I don't think there was necessarily anything deeper than just coincidence lining up in these week 1 games, and just a propensity to start slow, I guess, was the biggest thing that I took away from it in terms of at least Shane Steichen these last 3 years. I was worried this was going to be another slow start to the season. But yeah, turned that around. I don't know if it was the emotional kick of honoring Jim Irsay into the Ring of Honor, that game that really took him over the top, or they were just fully charged emotionally after so many letdown seasons. Something had to give at some point. Whatever the motivation was, I'm glad they found it, and I hope they continue to find it going throughout the season, so it's not just a flash in the pan here in week 1.
Well, and hey, regardless of who it is, all right, I know that there's levels to this game. There's levels. There's different rosters. There's better teams, worse teams, crappy teams, mediocre teams, which the Colts have fit that profile beautifully. But they're still professionals, all right? You still did have Bradley Chubb on that defense. You still had Zach Sealer, who is completely overlooked, one of the most disruptive defensive tackles in the NFL, back-to-back 10-sack seasons. You kept him in check. You had guys like Matthew Judon. You had guys like Jordan Brooks, Minkah Fitzpatrick. I mean, there are some guys on that defense, okay, that can make things happen. And they didn't even look like they were there, okay? And then you do have Tyreek Hill. You do have Jalen Waddle. You do have Devon Achane. And Tua is a good quarterback, so they went out there and they still took care of business. That's not going to be the worst team in the NFL, I can promise you that. But I don't know, man. That defense sucked. They were terrible, man. I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots beat the brakes off that defense. But okay, so we have Patrick here dropping down a $10 super chat. Look at that, you dog, CFO. That's why he's the CFO. The real test is going to be against the secondary next week for Jones. But after seeing how the lowly Titans did against Denver, I think we could see a win next week too. First place in the South. Denver's defense is better strictly because Pat Surtain is in that secondary. Jones is going to have to find wherever he's at every single play. Nick Benito's on that defense. Zach Allen's on that defense. That's a nasty defense to face. Yeah. I mean, it's like you got Miami And then you got the adults up here with Denver. So we'll see. We'll see. But I do think that Shane Steichen's scheme, RPOs, getting the ball out quick, taking it. Daniel Jones specifically could be the Achilles heel for a defense like Denver. Guy like Anthony Richardson, you saw it last year, 3 interceptions, hectic throwing. That's where Denver really shines, as a guy that holds the ball too long and just throws errant passes.
Yeah, I think this is probably a more accurate litmus test in Denver of where the Colts are actually at.
Yes.
One, like, you just don't want to deal with this emotional hangover after a big win like that in week 1, and all the emotions that you had building up before kickoff, and then finally going out and meeting that goal in such a dominant way that they did. Don't let that be a hangover for you going into week 2. You just want to see going up against maybe a higher tier of opponent, somebody that's going to be battling for probably the same kind of wild card spots that you're looking to battle for in the playoffs come the end of the season. So yeah, this is going to be a stronger offense, a stronger defense, both sides of the ball that you're going to have to deal with. And this is going to have to be 2 in a row that you're going to have to put together. And hopefully it swings the Colts way, and it's something that can turn into a tiebreaker down the line when you're going towards playoff scenarios. Because I think, once we get to week 17, week 18 of the season, I think the Colts are probably going to be looking back at this game here in week 2 with the Denver Broncos, and just based how the standings are shaking out, I think this one's going to be pretty important.
Yeah. And, whatever people have said about it, it's not even the defense. Okay. Bo Nix is still, I still think that he is in the perfect hands with Sean Payton. So this defense is also going to be facing, dare I say it, potentially a more, maybe not skilled, maybe not like athletically quarterback skilled QB. I think that Tua has more tangibles that you enjoy if you're a quarterback guy like Mike McDaniel, or if you're an offensive coordinator. But man, I mean, the mental, the unfolding, like kind of identifying things. I don't know about Tua, man. He looked like he really had some issues. So, but we'll see. That's going to be a huge game, and I'm really excited. And then I did want to. We can cover Patrick's next comment when we discuss the offense. And yes, R. Jonesy, he was, but that's a Tennessee Titans defense that's no joke either. I mean, the Titans will always have a solid defense, no matter what their offense or record looks like. They'll bring the pain defensively for no other reason. They got Jeffrey Simmons. So, but yeah, all right. So we're going to go ahead and dive right into this. This is where it's going to start getting exciting. We only have 3 tabs here, but just so everyone's aware going forward, this is how the layout's going to be for the post games. It's very straightforward. A lot of talking about like 3 or 4 subjects. So the first one, there's multiple here. I'll go ahead and start. My first most surprising performer, without question. It's honestly, this is kind of, well, I guess I'll leave that for another subject. But I think that the top one for me was probably Leatu Latu, just because he was able to drop back and take away. He picked off a pass, which maybe that's more to the scheme than anything else. I thought Leatu Latu, just based off of that and the fact that as a coach, you're confident to take your defensive edge, the guy he's not a coverage guy at all, and you drop him back 20 yards like that, and he's able to have the nimbleness to take away a pass. I was blown away by Leatu Latu. I also thought that he did some good things getting pressure on the quarterback. But who were one of yours? We could pretty much like have 2, 3 apiece, because this whole game was surprising, honestly.
Yeah, and we've got offense coming up, so I'm just going to pick one of these guys because there's probably 3 that I could talk about here. And I'm going to go with Matt Gonsalves, the right guard, who I think we highlighted in our preview of somebody that we were watching, somebody who might be a pressure point on this offense, of where you could maybe see some things start to crack. But it was completely the opposite with Gonsalves. I think he had a solid game as a run blocker, and I think his performance as a pass blocker was even better. Which I was surprised too, because I think that run blocking is kind of the thing that you would expect him to have down a little bit more than pass blocking, switching up that technique, moving from tackle inside to guard. But yeah, just incredibly solid all around. That entire offensive line was good. The communication between Bortolini and Gonsalves was good. I was worried we were going to see a lot of stunts up front and some blitzes from the second and third levels of that defense, trying to confuse Gonsalves and Bortolini, those young players on the inside, on who to pick up. But no, they were solid. The entire unit was super solid, especially in pass protection. So yeah, that's my most surprising there.
Yeah, one more guy that kind of stood out to me. I mean, I was really looking for this particular player and how he was going to respond to really his first, I don't want to say real start in the NFL, but you're looking at this man as your starter going forward from week one. That's Joe Bocci.
Mhm.
All right, Joe Bocci went out there and secured 6 tackles. All right, he was all over the field. He seemingly anytime that the ball was down or like Miami, I mean, they didn't really have that many snaps. Miami didn't, but it just seemed like Joe Bocci was everywhere the football was. He tied a three-way for most tackles with Nick Cross and Charvarius Ward with 6, all three of those guys. That's really encouraging because, we were talking about, okay, he looked great in training camp. That's also against your teammates. At some point, you got to kind of throw away the training camp dominance, if you will, because the plays, you start picking up on the signals and stuff and tendencies. And then preseason's preseason, man. You're playing second, third, sometimes fourth string guys. But he went out there and he looked like a starting linebacker next to Zaire Franklin, actually out tackled Zaire Franklin.
Mhm.
So that's another encouraging one. Do you have another one, or are you kind of wanting to save these?
There's a lot, and I wanted to bring up a couple, but we're going to get into offense and we're going to get into defense. And I feel like if we just keep throwing out these surprising performers, because there were quite a few on both sides of the ball, we're not going to be left with a lot to talk about for the rest of it. So we can just go ahead and really get into the nuts and bolts of the offense, both schematically and the performances we saw from some of these players, and really how that affected the game.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and dive right into it. So the offensive efficiency. They honestly went out there and were able to do point blank whatever the hell they felt like. Up front, short passes, intermediate passes, downfield throws. The blocking was fantastic. There was one play where Bradley Chubb absolutely dusted Bernard Ryman. But who the hell cares? You won by 25 points and your opponent didn't score till a meaningless touchdown in halfway through the fourth quarter. So tell me just overall, before we dive into the nuts and bolts, like you said, what do you think about how the offense played? Because it was surgical. Everything was surgical.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. That first drive, well, one, we'll start with Shane Steichen's decision to take the ball in the opening kickoff, won the toss, decided to receive, probably looking to set a tone there coming out this season. Doing that aggressively, and the whole game was aggressive. I feel like analytics would say kicking and then taking the ball for the second half is usually the right move. But he wanted to get his offense out there on the field, wanted to show what they could do with Daniel Jones. And they did that. That opening drive was almost all Daniel Jones in the passing game and him distributing the ball. That second play, you got a little bit worried because you had that screen pass to Michael Pittman. Really no pressure on Daniel Jones, and he skies him by about 5 yards. And everybody's kind of like, oh, here we go. It's going to be the experiment. But then from that point on in the game, Daniel Jones was pretty much pinpoint accurate, aside from a few, like just a little bit of issues like that crosser we mentioned to A.D. Mitchell was not exactly on the money, but still hit the target. No, man, just a lot of things that you didn't expect to happen, and them betting on themselves and the way that they did it without being so dependent on the run game like we kind of thought they would be. Jonathan Taylor was obviously involved, but it was the passing game that was a bigger threat for the Colts this game. And maybe that's because of the personnel in the Miami defense, where you've got Storm Duck, Rasul Douglas, these kind of guys on the back end. Rasul Douglas had only been there for a week and a half, and Storm Duck, despite the Hall of Fame level name he has, the play might not match that. So yeah, in the defensive side of the ball, maybe you were seeing those mismatches with those guys you had on the outside, and Pierce and Pittman and Downs and Warren, and thought that you could exploit that a little bit. And you really did so, and you were efficient in the way that you did it in the short and intermediate pass games. But it was really the extra stuff that Daniel Jones did in terms of those deep balls when he needed to make a play, like that deep ball on the right sideline to A.D. Mitchell, right on the money. That deep ball to Tyler Warren on the first play on that first drive was right on the money as well. Which those are the plays that you were kind of worried about with Daniel Jones, and you weren't so worried about him hitting these crossers or these dump offs to the running backs. And he was able to do that, but he was also able to do the long distance throws, those long range throws. That play to Pierce on the left sideline was perfect in between 3 defenders. Threw that with a lot of anticipation as well, and he made some plays scrambling outside of the pocket. So really, all the ways that you thought Daniel Jones could win, he did that. But then the ways that you were worried that was going to be super inefficient and you were maybe going to see some accuracy issues. He was able to do that as well. So I mean, he was definitely in the running. Daniel Jones was for my most surprising performer. I think that's a cop out if you go with the quarterback for that every time, but definitely wanted to go in depth here and talk about, that performance from Daniel Jones was great on the levels that you expected and probably even better on the ways that you did.
Well, and there's something, I know it's one game, but this was his first game as a Colt. And, all you've done, you haven't played any meaningful games with your brand new team. All right. Now, when you look at his career yards per attempt, okay, it's 6.5. The most he's ever accumulated in a season was 6.8 in 2022. I know it's just one game, 9.4. Okay. I've seen Daniel Jones play enough football that I can tell you personally. I mean, I wasn't a Giants fan that had to apparently still, even with Russ Wilson, being the quarterback, just watch absolutely garbage football. I mean, that is a franchise that until something changes, Brian Dable is incredibly overrated in my opinion. But I mean, he looked loose. He looked like he was taking deep shots, dude. Mm-hmm. Like he was taking deep shots. That ball to Michael Pittman was incredible. Yeah. I know that he was pretty open, but dude, there was the play which I thought was blown disgustingly out of proportion during the preseason where he missed Tyler Warren. All right. The best quarterbacks in the NFL are going to dirt some passes. They're going to overthrow some guys. I think that they had seen enough of Anthony Richardson that people were like, well, here you go. Here's Daniel Jones. This is what he was doing in New York. Yeah. But he looked uncharacteristic as opposed to how he's usually looked. And I was just impressed. I thought that, he's got over, he was 70, what was he like 75.9%. I mean, that is fantastic. And these weren't all just dink and dunk passes. So yeah. I love what you said there. And then as far as the running ability, he did have a long of 11 yards. So that means the other 6 carries were for 15 total. But Shane Steichen was happy to take this dude who's like, by the way, don't forget, he's like 6'4". Mm-hmm. He's like 240. He's huge. And he just plummets this guy right into the end zone. So Daniel Jones, don't forget, he was also trying to shove Jonathan Taylor by pushing him in the ass right into the end zone. Daniel Jones was all about doing it. He didn't look like his normal self, in my opinion. Yeah. And it's probably the best. I don't know about you. I don't know how much Daniel Jones football you've seen. I've probably seen, including him playing the Colts in 2022, I've probably seen like 8 to 10 full games with this guy. This is the best I've seen him look, and it might not be close.
Yeah, not a ton of Daniel Jones until the Colts acquired him, and then just going back and looking through some of the stuff. But yeah, it was just super in control. A lot of adjustments at the line of scrimmage, which I think is something we should highlight because I think that's one of the key reasons that he's in there as the starting quarterback is his ability to adjust to those pass protections. You can see him that 4th down to Josh Downs sitting up there and adjusting pass protection there to pick up the blitz and get it to Josh Downs on the outside there. You see a lot of those moments when he's just kind of slowing down the game and taking some control there and making some calls at the line of scrimmage. You saw that a lot. And then you talk about the running ability, not so much scrambling or anything, but we have the nickname Danny Dimes, which you don't like, but how about Danny Dives? Because that was 100% on those QB sneaks, which completely, just every time they called his number. I think after the game, the Shane Steichen press conference that he had, I think he even mentioned that Daniel Jones was 3rd amongst active quarterbacks even before this game in terms of success percentage on QB sneaks. Then just goes out and was, I think, what was it, 4 for 4 this game on QB sneaks as well. So yeah, I think that's something we're probably going to see. It's not necessarily the tush push, but with 100% conversion rating here in week 1, we're probably going to see that quite a bit throughout the season.
Well, yeah, the quarterback sneak is less about, it's 2 things that matter most. It's the offensive push, the offensive line push, but it's also, I think it's more on the quarterback to find the gap And honestly, it's like a dive down. Like you're not trying to hop over or run through or get behind and push into your lineman. You're basically trying to just find a gap and fall into it. And it's a skill. I mean, it really is. Things are happening so quick. And if your offensive line, especially in the interior, they get they get shoved backwards right into you, you're screwed. So it was just, it's a quick play. People don't really think, associate, execution much into it. But I mean, if you even miss a little bit of your block or you don't hit that hole quickly as a quarterback, it will absolutely backfire on you. So I think that I love how you brought that up. But something else that was really interesting that I liked about Daniel Jones is, again, just the way he spread the football around. I know that there were two guys that really dominated the target share and the receiving, but he still found so many different guys, which kept the defense guessing. And, we'll go ahead and dive right into that. Actually, before we do, Paul Wilson, another $5 super chat. You guys are generous as hell tonight. You guys must be excited about that victory.
Feeling good about the win. Yeah.
Yeah. Feeling good about the win here. Thank you so much, Paul. Attention, NFL. Tyler Warren is going to be a problem. What a great old school, tough football player. You read my mind. Look, that might be the most surprising of anything. He already has 1/6 of the catches by himself in his first NFL game that the entire tight end group had last year. Think about that. Dude has 16 games left. He has over 1/6 of the catches that the entire group had last year. He led the team in targets. He led the team in catches. He had the third biggest play of the game as far as a receiver. He was second in overall yards behind only the best receiver on the team in Michael Pittman. He was a fullback. He blocked really well. I mean, really well. He was putting dudes on their ass. He was pancaking guys. I don't care who you're playing. You're a rookie. You're a tight end. Difficult position to be a rookie for. Any position is, but especially tight end. I think I did a prediction piece and said that I think it'd be impressive if he had like 40 plus catches. I predicted like 55 or something like that. Let's just say this, man. Safety blanket, go-to target. He was everything. I mean, he really was everything. He ran the football. He blocked. He caught. He was looking for contact. There was a play, Noah, where he catches the ball. He's turning to the outside. There's two defenders right there. Plants his foot, turns back inside. Both those guys fall over each other. That's like what a 5, 6, 7 year vet. That's like a Travis Kelce move. Like that's the kind of guy we're talking about here. Still a lot of football, but tell me, I could talk about this dude all day. Tell me about what you think about Tyler Warren.
Yeah, I'm glad we're making the pivot to Warren. I think just him coming in, it was expected that he would play well. I think the areas that you are a little bit surprised in is how well he was or how efficient he was as a blocker, especially in run blocking, just adding onto the edge there usually on Bernard Ryman's side. It seemed like when he was doing some double teams or getting up to the second level and then just taking care of things in the run game. You expected him to be a pretty consistent pass catcher. And you know that like one of the biggest draws in drafting him was his ability to create after the catch. And you saw those things. So it's good to see those on full display. What I think the thing that jumped out at me is just the amount of times that he was targeted and how heavily featured he is in this offense, and kind of how this offense ran through him and how maybe you just have a little bit more freedom and we're going to see a version of Shane Steichen that we haven't really seen, because you have a guy who's just a mismatch piece there at tight end and somebody who you can line up there. I mean, they were in there with 12 personnel and 13 personnel in terms of having one or two tight ends, but Tyler Warren was constant on the field, and he was somebody who was always going to be there. And no matter if he was when he was on the field, you didn't know if it was a run or a pass. It wasn't a dead giveaway on based on who you had. Like last year, where if you had Kylan Granson in there in the lineup, you just pretty much assumed it was a pass play. You weren't going to rely on him as a blocker. With Mo Alley-Cox and Ogletree in there, probably leaning run. When you've got Tyler Warren in there, it could be 50-50 either way. And I like that they were able to get him in the backfield on that fullback carry, at least to put that on tape and show defenses that's something you have to game plan for. A couple other plays where he was lined up in the wing and motioning over, just using him in all the different ways that you can use him. I think he was lined up as a fullback, and immediately the next play he was outside wide as a wide receiver. So I like that you have somebody on this offense that you can line up and create some mismatches like that by moving him elsewhere along the field. Yeah, I mean, we tried to downplay it a lot after the selection because of the Brock Bowers year that happened last year, in terms of like the production that you should expect from a tight end. Maybe don't expect something like Brock Bowers, at least in the first game. Like he's on pace for that in terms of targets that he's getting and catches that he's able to come down with. And I'm not expecting that to come throughout the duration of the season. Like we're not ready to go there yet, but just the lengths that they're willing to go to get him involved in the game plan. They could have hit him with more targets than they needed to, or than they had to here this week. Really, in the second half, you weren't pushed to throw the ball down the field at all. I think maybe in a closer game, you would see Daniel Jones maybe have more than 22 pass attempts, right, or 22 completions in a game when you're trying to, if you're either behind in the second half and you're trying to get back in the game. That's also an area where I think Tyler Warren's going to be a problem. We saw that red zone target where he had that out against, I think it was Minkah Fitzpatrick there in the on the defensive side of the ball, who maybe should have had a defensive pass interference that wasn't called, or they got there a little bit early and Warren fell down before that target. I mean, the stat line that he had was great, but it could have been even better with that red zone target with another touchdown on there. So yeah, he's a threat. He's somebody that you're going to have to watch out for all year.
Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, Colts fans, I mean, it's really hard to say what he's best at.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I will also say that this was the first time any NFL defense has seen Tyler Warren. Fully expect the Denver Broncos to be ready for Tyler Warren. Okay, no NFL defense that's going to face Indianapolis, especially Jacksonville, Houston, and Tennessee. 84 is not going to surprise anybody anymore. Like they're already, everyone is looking at this guy like, holy crap. And, even, I mean, I can't remember the Dolphins coordinator or defensive coordinator's name. I think it's Anthony Weaver.
Yep.
Before the game, he was talking about how he thought Tyler Warren was incredible. And I mean, we'll see. We could do an entire episode on 84. Let's just say that. And we all remember the last 84 was the last great tight end for the Colts, and that was Jack Doyle. So, but yeah, I think that there was another, before we get to the other pieces of the offense, Mayotte. You're damn right Ulysses Bentley got a carry. I am a big Ulysses Bentley, the fourth guy. Really excited that he got activated up to the roster, got himself on the field. I think he's a very overlooked talent. I don't really know his impact. They're going to have to put up games like this for him to see the field. Yeah. But hey, regardless, it was just, that tells you if he's put out there, they ran the ball 40 times. All right. So, I mean, it was just good to see him out there, but the ground game was definitely not even the feature of this game. So, but I think something else that stands out, and I want to address this because I called this and it looked that way in this first game. But Alec Pierce, man, he's going to suffer with Daniel Jones being the quarterback. Now, did Jones take some deep shots? I mean, yeah, Pittman had a long of 27, Warren a long of 21. Taylor had a long catch of 16, Allie Cox 20, Adonai Mitchell 18. Clearly, there was explosive plays happening, but man, Alec Pierce only caught a pass. Granted, it was for 36 yards.
Yeah.
You're not going to see his season he had last year, guys. You're just not. Richardson peppered the hell out of that guy with targets, and even Joe Flacco did. Tell me a little bit about Alec Pierce. I know that it's really too early to tell, so I won't even dive into his contract situation. But I don't think you're going to see the season he had last year because he's not getting force-fed the ball.
Yeah, and it's probably good for the Colts.
It
right?
is.
If you don't see that,
good.
Maybe not as good for Alec Pierce in terms of the amount of money that he might be able to command on the open market in free agency this next year. But
sure,
yeah, it's something you don't want to rely on. Is his skill set? He's a one-trick pony, right? But he's got the trick that everybody wants. Someone who's super explosive as a deep ball catcher. I know we will see that at some point throughout the season in terms of a 50, 60-yard touchdown catch. I'm sure that's coming for Alec Pierce because that's just what he's best at. And even on that 36-yard catch on the sideline, he's just displaying that ability to track the ball and get his feet down on the sideline, come down with some tough catches. We're going to see more of that, but yeah, obviously the way that this offense ran, you didn't need to rely on that. You don't want to rely on that. You still obviously want to have him available as a threat for you on the outside. I think him being on the field just it just pushes the safeties back a little bit more, maybe gives you a little bit more room to make some intermediate completions to Warren, Downs, Pittman, these kind of guys, maybe even makes those check downs a little bit more efficient for you with yards after catch because the safeties are back a little bit more in those situations. But yeah, eventually, I mean, if you keep dinking and dunking and checking down, running the ball, that's going to open up for you some point. He's somebody that you don't want to take off the field. I know you have A.D. Mitchell waiting in the wings, who was effective in the targets that he had, and somebody you think can grow and become a larger part of the offense. But he's somebody that you want on the field, one, for his run blocking ability,
yes,
and the way that he's able to do that. And then two, just like having that threat that you can either hot route into when you're on the line of scrimmage and you see something open up, or having those deep shots called if you want to take advantage of something on a quick turnaround after a turnover and take a deep shot. He's somebody you want on the field. Just to have that versatility in the offense, to know that, hey, we can dink and dunk all day on these tight end screens to Warren, these check downs to Jonathan Taylor, who caught the ball really well out of the backfield, by the way. Then Josh Downs, A.D. Mitchell, Michael Pittman. We can hit you with all that, but you still always have to have in the back of your mind that Alec Pierce can hit you deep as well. And at least we saw some deep balls. We didn't see like those straight go routes that we've seen from Anthony Richardson, Joe Flacco in the past that Alec Pierce was thriving on. But yeah, you did see some shots down the field, at least 20 plus yards. And you wanted to see that out of Daniel Jones. Maybe in some future games, like we mentioned, we'll see that a little bit more just based out of necessity and the game situation calling for more deep shots and airing it out a little bit more. So yeah, obviously in week one, I mean, if you go up as soon as they did and your defense was playing the way that they were this game, you don't need Alec Pierce to be your deep threat guy. But I'm sure, yeah, as we go on throughout the season, you're going to be put in situations where you're going to need someone to be able to make those plays. So excited to see how that works out with Daniel Jones. I mean, yeah, we mentioned him just being on the same page with these guys in terms of the anticipation he was throwing with, to Tyler Warren, to A.D. Mitchell on the sideline, Michael Pittman on that touchdown. I mean, he's throwing it while Michael Pittman's stumbling out of a break, just trusting that he's going to be there on the same page. So yeah, you hope to see that chemistry with Alec Pierce later on in the year.
Yeah, and one more piece of the offense I did just briefly just touch on, because we still have a whole other side of the football to talk about here, but it was DJ Giddens.
Mm-hmm.
Was he electric? No. He did have a long of 12 yards, but I know that the Colts were, I just love I'm going to go ahead and say it. I don't even care. That I love the fact that you can look at this game and say that they put belt to ass. I mean, they beat the crap out of the Dolphins. All right. They owned them, but you can take out your star. You don't have to keep Taylor in the game. And you can turn to a rookie who had 12 carries, dude, and he had 41 yards. That's a significant workload for a rookie running back that's not going to be the RB1 at all. And I was impressed. I like DJ Giddens. I think that he has a skill set that's going to shine at times. I know it wasn't really that crazy, but clearly the coaching staff, Noah, they trust DJ Giddens. I mean, he's a rookie, and they still gave him the football 12 times. Yep. He could have fumbled. He could have made the wrong reads. He probably was shaky at times. But the dude finished the game as the running back and was only 6 carries short of what Taylor did.
Yeah. I think he, for the most part, just kind of got what was blocked for him, which is good. I mean, especially in the situation that you were at in the game, that's exactly what you wanted out of your running back. Churn out 3-4 yards, get those first downs, keep time of possession, keep churning out that clock the way that they did. So I think he kind of played that super well. You want to see him in some more positions where he's able to show a little bit more of that explosiveness. I'm sure we'll see that throughout the year as well. I think we just have to keep that in mind with pretty much everything that we're talking about, as the second half of this game that we watched is going to be completely different from a lot of things that we see from the Colts, just because of the situation that they were in, where they were able to play it a little bit more conservative and lean on that run game and not really pull too much out of the bag and show too much and just try to play it safe. So I'm sure we'll see some more things out of DJ Giddens. I want to see him more on some of these passing downs, but yeah, like we mentioned before the season, we were looking for who was going to be that person on third downs to take over for Jonathan Taylor, because Jonathan Taylor's never been a good pass blocker. He's never been a good pass catcher. Surprisingly, two things he did super well in week one here, Jonathan Taylor did. So I think we can kind of transition that from DJ Giddens. I know the rookie's super exciting to talk about. He will for sure get more carries as we progress throughout the year and be able to show a little bit more versatility. But what I was really surprised about and I'm really excited about is it seems like Jonathan Taylor, at least in week one, is somebody you can trust to play on all three downs. Somebody that is catching footballs out of the backfield, and Daniel Jones being very comfortable doing that. And he was awesome in these blitz pickups and being brought in pass protection, which is something that he was just a straight up liability on in his first few seasons in the league. So you hope that continues and he can be somebody who can play three downs. You don't want to have to do that. You want to be able to keep him fresh. I know that kind of the focus of revamping that running back room was to get guys in there that can spell Jonathan Taylor like DJ Giddens did in the second half there. And really keep him off the field out of necessity, just so you can rely on him later on throughout the season. But if you have somebody who you trust in there on third down plays, like that play to Tyler Goodson, that 4th and 2 with Gardner Minshew, the Colts didn't get and missed the playoffs. If you trust Jonathan Taylor to make those plays, maybe he's in on those plays now to be that pass catcher out of the backfield. So yeah, that's something I'm really interested in watching as the season goes on to see if he stays in there in that role.
Yeah, and 3 catches doesn't sound like a lot. For Jonathan Taylor on 3 targets, 27 yards, You're happy with that. And also, Glenn Brickhouse, my goodness, the language in that chat. I love the energy. Keep it up. Just keep those asterisks going, okay? Don't fire up the chat too much, but I do like your energy. Sarah Small, thank you so much. Noah and Drake both rock. You rock, Sarah. You rock. Great on all avenues of the game. Way to go, Danny Dimes. Excuse me. It's going to be one of 2 nicknames going forward. It's either Danny Dives or it's Indiana Jones. All right, so we'll have to see. But yes, we do have to get to the defensive side of the football. Now, I want to start off by saying this. Xavier Howard had this to say, and I love how absolutely transparent the guy was. You can tell he's been in the NFL a long time, and especially that he played with the Dolphins. About Tua, quote, he gets the ball out pretty quick. Remember, people, what did Noah say that he was concerned that the Colts might have issues with? Him getting the ball out quick. But the Colts played press coverage. And once we take away his first read, I feel like it's panic mode after that. And it showed yesterday. They knew exactly what to do to Tua. And I even put out this post. I said, Wally and Noah is destroying the Miami Dolphins offense. And how often do you talk about a defensive coordinator destroying an offense? Tua had no clue, not a single idea what the hell to do. He was fumbling the ball, dirting passes. He was the most accurate quarterback last year. Out of everyone, we're talking Mahomes, Jackson, Allen, anyone, the most accurate guy. Just right out of the gate, what do you make of the scheme? I mean, I understand that this is a team that's in disarray, but
yeah,
I mean, my God, man, they look like the 32nd best offense in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, it was a super fun game to watch from Lou Anarumo, and in your week 1 debut, that's obviously what you want to see. It's going to be very game plan specific, I'm sure, as you go forward in terms of the coverages that you're going to be playing against these guys. But he had the perfect game plan, and that's why he was brought on. Shane Steichen brought him on because he liked his ability to be versatile and be multiple on defense and provide different looks depending on what your opponent was. And he came up with the perfect game plan there for Tua, where they were pressing the receivers on the outside. They had their safeties back to cover that deep threat. And really what they were doing, I mean, they got a lot of pressure on him, but it wasn't because they were like blitzing a lot or playing a whole bunch of cover 1, cover 0 and man coverage. They were rushing 4 most of the time when they got those pressures.
Yep.
It was just the variety of who they were bringing on those pressures. And really, I think what got him was they were flooding the hook and curl zones, those short and intermediate zones, like where you would throw those slants or those curls to the outside, kind of those quick hits to your outside receivers. It was a different player almost every play on who was jumping in there to fill that zone. So it was the safeties, the corners. Kenny Moore was in there a lot. Linebackers were bouncing out. Defensive ends. That's where Latu got his pick. He was manning that hook curl on that side, and Tua was just not ready for it. So yeah, he's that first read that he was making in terms of those quick hits that he could have had to get the ball out quickly. It was dealing with 4 or 5 different looks, and he never knew which one was coming throughout the game. So that's something that was super fun to watch, and probably not something that you're going to do every week in terms of just the way that you're attacking the quarterback. I mean, it'll be different depending on who you're playing, but yeah, just fun to see that, and fun to see him use a variety of blitzers. Nick Cross get that blindside sack he didn't see coming. Kenny Moore coming in from that blitz and getting the strip sack there. Just all the ways that you were hoping to have fun watching this Colts defense in ways that you didn't. It was kind of the antithesis of the Gus Bradley era, in the ways that you were seeing multiple people being brought in on blitzes and then those coverages being mixed up and just getting people involved. And he's not afraid to drop defensive ends in the past game. He did that with Trey Hendrickson in Cincinnati, dropping him into coverage. They did that play that Latu had that pick. Kwity Paye was dropped in the hook curl on the other side. So yeah, he's just making it super exotic in terms of what you're looking at, and that might change a little bit as we go on throughout the season, and opponents have some more film on the kinds of things that he does. But I fully expect him to keep shaking that up and go a little bit more man coverage in situations that call for it. This is one of those instances where you're like, who was the standout performer on defense? I don't know, because everybody played well.
And that's good.
The standout performer was Lou Anarumo in the way that he employed those guys, just keeping Tua off guard. You really didn't need anybody to play that awesome. Just kind of hold down your responsibilities on the plays that you were asked to do it. So yeah, I guess the standout performer that you would be looking for is everybody that's communicating there on the back end. Zaire Franklin, Joe Bacci, communicating those coverages on the interior, and your new safeties, Travarius Ward, Xavier Howard, who I think both of us thought might be a little bit of a liability, a 32-year-old corner who was maybe falling off a little bit and then took a gap year. I mean, you're worried about that for sure, but I mean, he played super well. And you're just a fun guy to have in the locker room. I think, given that candid quote there, you have guys with swagger back there on the defensive side of the ball in terms of Cam Bynum now and Charvarius Ward and Xavier Howard. It's just a completely different attitude on that defense.
Yeah, and Xavier Howard played really well for given his situation, and I was very concerned about him missing the entire season last year, being 32. You come in here, you're asked to start, played great, but this is from Joel Erickson of Indy Star. Tua Tagovailoa averaged 2.64 seconds from snap to throw yesterday. Why is that a big deal? Tagovailoa led the NFL in fastest time to throw the last 2 seasons, 2.42 last year, 2.36 in 2023. That 0.24 seconds is critical because Lou Anarumo made Tua, quote, second guess himself, and that's never where a QB wants to be.
Yeah.
Okay. That's what quarterbacks have to look forward to. I mean, this is a man who completely befuddled guys like Mahomes, guys like Jackson, guys like Allen, and he did it to Mahomes and Allen in the playoffs. Okay. So, I mean, yes, he had a down season last year. He had a down season in 23 as Cincy's coordinator. But when something else that stood out about this, I mean, the whole defensive tab here, if you want to call it that, is going to be about Anarumo. You talk about Cam Bynum had a pick, right? Mm-hmm. But like you said, Latu had a pick too. I mean, I don't know of many coordinators that are going to drop back a defensive edge 15 yards, man. Like, he was messing with Tua's head. He was playing chess and Tua was playing checkers, or maybe he was playing hopscotch. I don't know what the hell Tua was doing, but it was nowhere near what Anarumo was doing to him. But what really stands out to me, 2 out of your 3 sacks came from your cornerback and your safety. Okay. And one of the cornerbacks popped the ball loose, dude. And the guy who led the team in quarterback hits, it wasn't DeForest Buckner, which, by the way, he used DeForest Buckner in so many different ways. I mean, Buckner wasn't just in the interior. He was moving him around. It was Sam Snebacom. Sam Snebacom went out there and got the other sack that wasn't from the secondary. So that's a guy that you can start to get excited about again. I mean, Sam Snebacom looked like his 2023 self again. I mean, he hit Tua 3 times, dude. This defense, like I said, this isn't to be negative, right? But Miami's offense is done. The surprise factor that they used to have, it's gone. But whenever you go out there and you beat the living crap out of a team that has their capabilities still, and you don't allow a single point until the fourth quarter when it doesn't matter
Yeah.
in your first game as a team's defensive coordinator, that is really, really impressive. Just, I don't know, man. If you're a young quarterback that's 2-3 years in the league, or God forbid you're a rookie, you've got a lot ahead of you when you face this guy. He is going to throw everything at you he can. And something else, Noah, and I'm sure you saw this too. I know you saw this, and I know that you're at least somewhat privy to formations because, ladies and gentlemen, one time I played Noah in Madden, and he just kept on flipping the freaking coverages on me, and I had no idea what I felt like Tua playing Noah in Madden. But you would have like 7 guys up at the line of scrimmage, man.
Yeah.
And 4 of them drop back and 3 rush, and it's like a defensive edge, a linebacker, and a defensive tackle. And you've got like a defensive edge like Latu not rushing, and he drops back. What do you make of that kind of thing? Because it's like when you see that many guys at the line of scrimmage, you're immediately thinking, which do I make a check for?
Yeah.
And just the ways that he dropped certain guys back, kept certain guys in. I mean, I didn't want to like overhype Lou Anarumo, but holy crap, if this is what you have to look forward to if you're a quarterback, that's kind of like a nightmare, man.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost kind of like, it's kind of funny how they've made such an emphasis on the cornerback room and remaking that room and getting guys like Justin Wally, Charvarius Ward, Xavier Howard, all these new signings and putting them out there. It almost didn't matter who you really had at corner out there. As long as you had somebody you trusted to run straight backwards. You could have played Jonathan Edwards, the undrafted guy out of Tulane, and felt pretty good still about what your defense was doing.
Exactly.
Just because of the ways that you were affecting Tua at the line of scrimmage and in those hook curl zones. And not necessarily on the outside. Yeah, he was just doing a lot of exotic different things, which I think is probably good because of the news of Charvarius Ward being in concussion protocol this week. You might not have him for this Denver Broncos game coming up, which might be a little bit more of a test. But that's super encouraging that you were able to do this without needing a huge performance out of guys like Ward and Xavier Howard. And I think they were both pretty consistent and solid in terms of their coverage. And Xavier Howard, especially, I think surprised me a little bit in terms of him just not being somebody that they keyed on and tried to attack in some of these situations. I think, without a guy like Charvarius Ward, you're probably going to see a little bit more of a test on Xavier Howard. And the new kid, Mekhi Blackman, coming in. When Ward went out for a little bit, it was Blackman that came in and not Jalen Jones. So the first guy off the bench that they turned to at outside corner was Blackman. So they've got high hopes for him. I imagine we'll see quite a bit of him and Xavier Howard on the outside, which, what was that? If you were 3 days before cut down day, you would not have expected that at all, to see Xavier Howard and Mekhi Blackman as your 2 starting corners in week 2. So, but the encouraging part of that is, it seemed like you could have played anybody out there and been okay with the way that you were mixing things up schematically.
Yeah. At the end of the day, before we kind of get to the news and rumors here, I'll rattle off a couple of stats here. I mean, Miami, they did not, the Colts had 52 total tackles. Let me see something here. Miami had the ball a total of 21 minutes.
Yeah.
The Colts had it for 39. Okay. And yet, in that limited amount of times the Dolphins had the football, just so everyone's aware, they had 43 total snaps. The Colts had the following. They had 4 tackles for loss. They had 5 passes defended. And in fact, 2 were Cam Bynum, 1 was Kenny Moore, 1 was Leatu Latu. That's along with the pick. And another was Neville freaking Gallimore. All right. 5 passes defensed and 6 quarterback hits. I mean, they were bludgeoning Tua. That means 1 out of every 7 snaps, this dude's getting hit in the backfield, a guy that needs to get the ball out quick. Absolute dominance. And then I have to mention it, that celebration from Cam Ward, or from Cam Bynum. I don't know what in the hell he was doing, but it energized the entire crowd. That's the kind of swagger, like Noah talked about, that you now have with this Colts defense. They're a completely different unit. The scheme is different. These guys are bought into it. I mean, look, when you have guys that are bought into you, and they believe in what they're doing and who's coaching them, you can make up for the lack of talent. And I'm telling you, if Charvarius Ward, which gets us to news and rumors, if for some reason he has to miss this game on Sunday, that is still the scheme that you have to deal with. Okay. You still got to deal with the scheme. And I think that there's guys that can still make up for it. So we'll have to see. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get to the news and rumors real quick. The first one is very obvious. So the Colts did recently, Shane Steichen announced that Charvarius Ward is in the concussion protocol. That is not what you want to hear going into a critical week 2 matchup. The Broncos are a better team. Look, Mike McDaniel there's pieces of me that don't even think that he can lick the bottom of Sean Payton's boots. Okay. So Payton is a very, very good coach, very good play caller. He knows how to dissect your defense. Honestly, Noah, I hope that Ward makes it. Everyone does, but if he can't, I still think this is a very capable defense, and what a treat to be able to witness Lou Anarumo versus Sean Payton.
Yeah, and that's like you mentioned, just you have to rely on guys that you didn't think you would have to rely on this early in the season.
Yes.
We thought Jalen Jones would be the next man up. He wasn't, and especially won't be now that hamstring injury has been re-aggravated. Shane Steichen confirmed that was the same hamstring injury that he was dealing with in training camp that kept him out for a portion of time.
Yeah.
We'll see kind of what happens with Jalen Jones. But yeah, I mean, the cornerback room was getting hit a ton in terms of injuries in training camp. It seemed like week 1 rolled around, they were back fully healthy. After week 1, dealing with someone in concussion protocol and then a flare up of that hamstring injury. So you're back down to a thin unit and relying on guys like Xavier Howard and Mekhi Blackman who weren't with the team this entire summer. So one thing you're worried about, like kind of the level of play with that 32 years old, that Xavier Howard with the age gap. You just had a guy in Blackman who got traded for a late round pick who probably would have been a cut candidate if they didn't find a candidate to trade him to. So these are the guys that you're going to be starting, but maybe more so than the talent level, you're worried about the communication on the back end, like you mentioned, with how diverse Lou Anarumo's scheme is. Luckily, you have a guy like Xavier Howard who has played in Lou Anarumo's scheme, albeit it was several years ago in his career and not for that long. But you do have someone with that kind of history, and Mekhi Blackman did play for a defensive scheme in Minnesota that had some similar concepts. So you're not starting from scratch entirely there, but yeah, that's definitely going to be a matchup that I'm going to be looking out for is that Broncos offense, and see how Sean Payton tries to attack those corners.
Yeah, and then the other piece is that the Colts parted ways with Khalil Herbert, and they signed Amir Abdullah. And Amir Abdullah, there was a point where there was some promise. There really was. And I think that he's more of a receiving back than anything else. I mean, for God's sakes, last year with the Raiders at 31 years old, dude had 66 carries. He had 40 catches. That tells you exactly what he does for you. What do you make of Khalil Herbert, though? When he got signed, I was like, RB2, that's the guy, that's the next, that's the dude. It's kind of surprising because not only did he do nothing in the preseason, not only did he do nothing in training camp, clearly the Colts want to favor a guy who's been on what seems like 100 different teams in the last couple of years.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I think it's kind of a testament to the way the running back room ended up when you saw a signing like Khalil Herbert and you were like RB2 instantly. Now all of a sudden with the emergence of DJ Giddens and kind of how quickly he came on, Tyler Goodson's escalation in terms of or his progression and how you feel comfortable with him being an RB2 or RB3, and then Ulysses Bentley as an undrafted guy. Then there's also the question, Khalil Herbert there with the injury he was dealing with right around cut down day. Is that something that maybe slowed him down a little bit more than you wanted? But yeah, they brought in a guy like Amir Abdullah, who's very much a pass catcher in that vein, and more so than anybody that you have on that roster. So if you get further on throughout the season, and I mean, it's very clear that they're willing to do that and want to do that in terms of dumping the ball off to their running backs in the check down game. If Jonathan Taylor kind of goes back to what he's kind of looked like in the past few years and being a really prolific runner, but not so much of a threat as a receiver out of the backfield, maybe that is somebody that you can elevate on game days in terms of Amir Abdullah. Who can give you that threat on the offensive side of the ball. And I think also special teams threat in terms of a kick returner. Amir Abdullah has some experience with that as well. So I know Khalil Herbert was maybe mixing in there a little bit. So obviously, I think it's just kind of, you have a guy in Giddens and Ulysses Bentley who can do things that are similar to what Khalil Herbert can give you. And they're a little bit on the younger side. So you bring in somebody with a different skill set in Amir Abdullah as somebody you can call up if you need somebody to be more of that pass catcher. So yeah, a little bit disappointing because you were kind of expecting some things from Khalil Herbert.
Yes.
Disappointing in the sense that you're not getting the production from him, but I mean, very encouraging that you feel happy about some of those younger guys in the running back room to be able to contribute.
Yeah. Well, you know what, guys? That's pretty much the show. All that we'll say is be excited, be pumped, be over the moon about how this team performed. I don't care if it's the Dolphins, who I fully expect Mike McDaniel to probably be on a very short leash after this game, but they went out there, they took care of business. All the pressure was on them. They had the daughters of Jim Irsay owning the team. You saw Carly Irsay over there putting up the touchdown symbol. I mean, the pressure was on this football team, and they went out there and they kicked their ass. So be very excited. But as is always the case, just like a restaurant when you're in your 20s working a serving job, the turnover is quick. So we are going to go ahead and bid you all a farewell. Like the Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook. Follow Indianapolis Colts on SI and on X. Find us at @Colts_SI. Subscribe to the Horseshoe Huddle on YouTube. Click that bell. Turn on all the notifications. If you want to listen, no problem. Noah's got us covered on all of the platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever else you listen. Guys, we will be back on Thursday, but we are going to mix up some things, okay? So I hope you're all prepared for this, because due to some life events and stuff and me being a dad and whatnot, we're going to start doing our show at 8:30, okay? Don't come to my house and pick it if it's in between games. I apologize. That's how life works sometimes, but we are going to start doing an 8:30 show, and we'll kind of gauge how it goes and everything. We're very, very flexible here. But we're going to be talking everything Broncos, Colts. But until then, soak it up. Soak up this victory. The curse is over. Jimmy Boy's up there excited. It's a new era of Colts football. And just be pumped, soak it in, and have yourselves a brew tonight. Everybody, we appreciate you, and we will be seeing you here on Thursday night to talk more Colts football.